Hi, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be going through a sketchbook that I have. I figured it'd be kind of interesting for you guys to see some old drawings I did and I guess how I've grown as an artist. Now as a spoiler alert, I pretty much consistently drew with a pencil for most of my life, so a lot of these are not going to be very colorful or very finished, especially finished. Like I said, it is a sketchbook, so it's going to be a lot of sketches, not really many finished pieces. Although I do have some finished pieces in here that I just kind of put at the back so that you can kind of see those as well. So I'm not going to go into too much depth on everything because one, I don't remember what I was thinking when I drew it, and two, it could be something totally nebulous and doesn't really, like, you know, there's no theme with my sketchbooks. I never was much of a sketchbook person, so it would take me years to finish like one sketchbook. So I'm gonna put the age of these at around probably 8 years ago to maybe 3, so it probably took me about like 4 years to get through this, which yeah, that's a long time. So this is just a sketch. I used to like drawing a lot of fashion stuff, so that is just what that is. That's pretty much it. Again, just some more sketches. I don't know if I had references for any of these. Probably not. Maybe this one I did have a little bit. Let's see. Oh, okay, I remember doing these. So these I wanted to do anthropomorphic animals because I do enjoy drawing stuff like that, like Black Sad style stuff. So I did an antelope. I guess goes to the gym, and then I did a panda who looks like he's straight out of like an 80s music video or an 80s workout video. And then I'll bring this up so you can see better. I have a skunk who's, I guess he's a slob, so he's kind of true to his name. He's eating some cheese doodles and he's got like a soda hat, and I don't know why he's a fan of the Miami Dolphins. And then I have, it looks like a rabbit teacher. So those are still kind of cool. And then this one I did, so it's a rhinoceros and looks like she's a ballerina, and then a skier, snow fox. So kind of just playing around with what kind of animal they were and either making it ironic or just kind of on the nose. And then I was doing some more fashion stuff. I particularly like the 20s decade, so I was playing around with stuff like that. I don't remember what this was about, but there it is. This one I remember was from a reference. I think it was a model I found on Pinterest, maybe. And this was just a cartoon I did. And then I guess I was probably reading Moby Dick, because otherwise I have no idea why I would draw Captain Ahab. These are just doodles. These were doodles for a graphic novel I was gonna do. I don't know if I'll end up ever doing it. Probably not. Just kind of sits in the back of my head sometimes. And then I was doing research for it because it was about, he had multiple personalities and I wanted to play around with that. So then I was trying to come up with like a cover page for the graphic novel, which I ended up going with this, and it was very colorful, kind of pop arty. So of course I did the cover for it, which is usually probably one of the last things you do. And then these were references I used just to, wow, that's a lot of pencil dust, that I just found online. And then this was for a comic that I wrote. I actually completed writing it which is sort of interesting. But then I had to draw it, and I wrote about 300 pages, and I at some point will have to narrow that down. I didn't expect the comic to be 300 pages, but it ended up being that for the writing. So yeah, so that was just some planning that I did for it. I'm sure it's only decipherable by me, so this is not a very useful page. I don't know if that was planning for a drawing, maybe. I'm not really sure. I wasted a lot of paper here. It's not a lot going on. And then I drew a chair, not very interesting. And then I just drew a lady and some lemons. Some eyeballs. Oops. I'm not sure what that was, but something. Oops, I can hear things falling in the back. And for this page, this was a concept for a sci-fi spacesuit that I was trying to come up with. Looking back on it, it's pretty terrible. Also, I didn't even finish it, so I can see why I never went with that on anything. That's not even my handwriting, so it must have been my mom. And then that was just, I probably had got a new pen and I was just testing it out. And then I was just doing some action poses, probably for a comic. And that probably, this is like the first color piece. This was 2017, so that dates this page at least. I drew Gamora because I was very into Guardians of the Galaxy at the time, specifically the comics, although I did like the movies as well. And then Spider-Man, I guess, although I didn't complete his webs, so that's kind of interesting. And then just sketches, I guess, Superwoman, or Supergirl I should say. And then girl in a coat. Again, you'll notice I don't completely use a page up, like there'll be a lot of blank space. And then that looks like something from my comic. And then I think I was just trying to draw cool sci-fi bird helmets. I think I was just trying to come up with alien species for my graphic novel, and that was sort of one of the directions I was going in. Total waste of 2 pages. I remember drawing that. I feel like I drew that in driver's ed, which is kind of funny. Yeah, so that would have been, I did driver's ed late, so I guess that could have been 2017. And then that was going to be a concept for the cover art of my graphic novel. I think I might have done another version of this and then inked it. I don't think I ever colored it though. And then that was just like a black canary sketch I did. That was more for the comic. I think probably what you'll notice through a lot of the sketchbook is that it's going to be mostly like comic concept art, because that's pretty much what I've done my whole life, so that was kind of the main thing. Oh yeah, so here's a lot of pages. I think I actually transferred this digitally and inked it, but I like to just thumbnail things quickly, you know, not have an actual page layout, like this isn't actually how the page was gonna look, but just thumbnail so I could at least get down what I wanted in a box and then figure out how to make it make sense on a page, make it flow well for reading, and just make it more enjoyable to look at, because obviously this was more for me than anyone else. Let's see, yeah, same thing. And then this was a sketch for painting I did. I actually did end up doing. It's quite old now, so it's probably on my DeviantArt somewhere. That was another sketch that I did. I didn't have reference for it, so it's a little wonky. More comic stuff. One day I will definitely finish that comic, because that is probably the most I've ever done on a comic is that. Oh, I think I was gonna do 7 deadly sins, like do a character for each deadly sin, and then I did envy, and that's as far as I got. So maybe one day I'll return to that. Then I just did a astronaut. Oh, these were stuff I was making for Christmas, so I sketched it out. And then, oh, here's some writing from that comic. This is more, I don't know what that is actually. Actually, you know what? That might have been for a video game I was playing. I was probably planning out the, I think, yeah, it might have been like Roller Coaster Tycoon or something. I don't know. I like to draw stuff from that. And, oh, I was doing page layouts. Just drawing boxes. I don't know what this page is. Probably painting concepts. Yep, cover concepts. And this looks like Thor. Oh, but I specifically wrote not Thor, wrote Ragnarok down here, so I'm not really sure. Okay, and these were just some girls that I was drawing, just kind of 80s inspired, or definitely that one is. That one not so much. And I was doing pose references from still lifes, and then more concept art for my comic. That was probably pose reference. That definitely is. And then that was actually for a Ghibli painting that I ended up doing for Princess Mononoke. That one definitely is on my DeviantArt somewhere. Up, and here we go. We got some Sailor Moon. So I've done a lot of Sailor Moon art, so at least this one I recognize that that arm is so long. I shortened it a little bit, so it's definitely a lot better. And then more sketches. I think I was trying the triangle, like hack if you want to call it that, to do faces from weird angles. I don't remember if I ended up ever using it after this though. Probably not. More comic stuff. Again, just thumbnails that I would then transfer, figure out how many I want on a page so it looked right, and then, you know, had the hook. So you keep turning the page. A lot of that. A lot of that. And more of that. And then this was concept for, I guess, like a variant of the cover, or maybe just like an insert. And I did actually end up inking that and painting that and posting that maybe on my Instagram. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so. And then more concept art. So basically the story, since I'm sure you're probably like, what is this? It's a alien sci-fi comic about this kid, Kyle, who gets a time-traveling device from his dad, who was an alien, although he is half human. And he kind of fiddles with it and gets in some trouble using it. And it's a lead-in to another comic I wanted to do, kind of similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, where you have a group of kind of misfits. So he was one of the main characters from that. So I was trying to do an origin story for each of the characters, which is, thinking back on that, is incredibly ambitious. But anyways, he was the one I was most passionate about, so I finished his book, the writing of it, and then I was just doing the art for it. But I don't think I got more than 15 pages in as far as inked. So one day, I think I'd like, at this point it's been so long I'd have to redraw it all. So one day right? We all say that one day. Just some sketches. I did an Artemis sketch, more comic. He grows progressively as this book goes on. It basically goes from him of age 16, kind of where he is now, to like 30. So it's a pretty long. And then here was some alien concept art I came up with. I was inspired by like under the sea stuff because that's always feels very alien. I do kind of like that, although it's very scary looking. If I can turn the page. Alright, there we go. And then it looks like I was trying to come up with different architecture for, you know, having an enclosed space but making the best use of the space. So basically you got a Murphy bed, a panel shower that pops in and out, panel toilet. I don't really know why I thought that in depth about it, but I guess I did. And then more concept art for it. This time, I think he's maybe a couple years older at this point, since he basically abandons his human world at that point. And then looks like more, and I would just number them just to keep me kind of in check. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I could probably skip ahead. So we've got that. I don't know what that is. Looks like a little drawing. More concept art. Oh, that was just more page templating. Templating. How about that? Let's speak proper English. All right, and then more. I would do gestures pretty roughly because I knew things were probably going to change. Sometimes I would get a little more detailed, but like, I mean, some of these are also kind of weird movements, like someone's pulling him away, like that could be kind of a rough one to draw. So as long as I got the gesture down so I knew what it meant later on, that I could actually look up proper references for it. But yeah, there's a lot of that here. Yeah, that yeah, like I was gonna fit all that many words. I have very wordy boxes. That would definitely be something where I would need to cut way back. But at that point I was, I don't know, 18, 19, and I was, you know, I read a lot of comics, but I was not a pro when it came to, you know, figuring out flows of things. I was still in the baby stages of that. This is just more Christmas stuff. I probably embroidered. Actually, I did embroider that on something. And then here's some Pokemon stuff. Looks like we got Bulbasaur. And that was probably going to be Charmander. Yeah. I don't know what that is, but that's very fun. And then a little Pichu. Another Pichu, that's really cute. I actually ended up doing something like that later. Same thing, but it was a different character. And that's like a cool guy, Charmander. I think at this point is when I started doing a lot of Pokemon stuff. Wow, and that was characters for another comic I was doing. It was actually a much shorter comic though. It was just gonna be like 10 pages or so, which is a little more achievable. And that was concept for an art I did end up doing. That's on Instagram somewhere. And that is a concept for a character that I did named Iris. She's a dragon trainer. And there she is again. And then I think that was for a commission I did for a comic for someone. And here was a doll I ended up designing. And I actually ended up making it. It came out really nice. I used like a Monster High doll. I was really into like those remakes of Monster High dolls and stuff at the time, so I wanted to do it myself. So I this was like pretty much exactly what she ended up looking like, with a few exceptions. Like I don't think I gave her the star tights, but everything else I did. And then here are just some fun little designs. It looks like I was going to draw a bicycle and then I was like, nope. And that was another doll that I also made as well. She was like a dessert themed one. Oh, and then Pokemon-ified human. So basically Gajinkas. So I did like Ampharos, so she's like a wizard. And then Gallade, who's like a warrior. And then I don't know who that's supposed to be. I'm not really sure. Maybe Aegislash? Oh, Infernape. Dirt. Yeah, Infernape. So I guess he's like kind of like a ninja. And then I did Lucario. I did Needs Warp next to it. And then I was gonna do Landorus, Thundurus, Tornadus. I'm gonna assume that was probably Landorus that I started on. And then I don't know who that's supposed to be. That might be also one of the genies. And then I think I was gonna do like a shepherdess art for that, but I don't think that went anywhere. This was Halloween, so okay, so I did make a tie where I painted a bunch of these guys on them. I still have it. It was for a costume, but I ended up liking it so much I just kept it because it came out pretty good. And then just nothing. Something was there. I don't know what that was. Let's see. Some more Pokemon stuff. Oh yeah, so that was that character from earlier, Iris. That was her team. And that's Reese, who's another one. And then that's AJ, who's my main Pokemon OC, who it's all over my Instagram. All over it. Not so much anymore, but like 5 years ago, everywhere. And then this was a mini comic I did. I actually finished. Yes. I think I still have a couple pages that I didn't color, but it's inked and everything. So I actually kind of finished that, I guess. So she was a frost witch and she has a potion shop. It's actually pretty cute. I think it's kind of a little old at this point. Like the art is still pretty decent, but it's not totally reflective of my current style, which sucks when you don't finish something, but you want to finish it and you're like, you don't want to redraw it. So that was just more sketches for it. And then I did thumbnailing for the pieces. So this is actually what some of the pages look like. And then I drew, I wonder if I got new markers or something. I have a feeling like I had just gotten markers and I was testing them out. I think those are, those are alcohol markers and maybe colored pencil too. Yeah, colored pencil and alcohol markers. Oh yeah, look at that bleed through, that's alcohol. Ornaments for Christmas. See, that's how you can tell how many years this took me to finish. We went through multiple holidays. I must have been watching The Mandalorian when I did this. And then that's a preview of what's on the next page. Yay, Howl's Moving Castle. I really like that movie. And I was drawing poses. And, that's one of my OCs, who's the daughter of the Grim Reaper. And then that was just a sketch of a character I had. I didn't quite finish it for some reason. This page is just absolute nonsense. I was probably just testing out markers. And I think I was making witches, and I was just trying to make them very abstract looking. And that was a concept character I did. I was trying to up my portfolio to get hired, and that was one of them I did. And then, so I did a Marilyn Monroe with alcohol markers, and then just like a girl. And then, oh, I must have just gotten a bunch of Copic markers because I was testing them all out. And then I did a little clown girl with them. I think she's quite cute, actually. Oh, and then this is probably one of my favorite pages, is just, I did the Mario characters. So I did Waluigi, Luigi, Mario, Princess Peach. So I made her try to look actually like a peach, because it always annoyed me how her name is Princess Peach, but, you know, where's the peach motif? So I gave her some like whipped cream and like a peach, I don't know what you call this part of the dress, like a big bustle, I guess. And then Princess Daisy. I think my favorite is probably Wario, just because he looks like a very greasy man. And then I think that was a nun I drew. And then I drew a bunch of fruits and vegetables for some reason. I don't know why. I really like this guy. And I think that's it for this one. Yeah, that's it. So that's that. Now I have a few pieces left that I'll just quickly show. So this was a painting I did 6 years ago, maybe not quite that long. And it was based off an I wish I remember the artist, but she drew this huge beautiful tree in the middle. And I wanted to kind of copy what she had done. And I added my own elements, like the stuff in the back and the little character and the door. But the big tree was like the main focus. So I did that. So if I can show you the details on it. So, and I did this all in gouache. So I think that was one of the first gouache paintings I ever did. And it took me a long time, but I finished it and I think it still looks pretty decent. And then this was a little witch I did. She's a gardening witch, and that's also gouache. And I think it's just really cute. And I really like to paint in teals. And the next picture that I did, this was quite some time ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. This is just a landscape sort of picture that I did. And yeah, it's alright. Looking back on it, it's, you know, there's a lot of mistakes, but I think the colors look quite nice. And I think, yeah, this is definitely gouache, and I don't know if there's anything else. I think it's just gouache that I used on this one. And then this was just a cute little wizard that I made with a bunch of cute little frogs. I think she's still pretty cute. I think I did this maybe also 5 or 6 years ago. I think I did a TikTok video from it when I did use TikTok, which was for a very brief amount of time. And then this one, I think this was one of the first times that I had ever used gouache, and I quite like how it came out. I was using the Arches watercolor paper, so it's quite textured, but I don't really mind the textured paper too much. I think sometimes it can be hard if you're doing detail work, but otherwise I think it soaks in the water really nicely, so it's pleasant to work with, at least. And then these were some more witches. This was actually the garden witch from earlier, and then her two like witch partners, I guess you could call them. I believe she was the cooking witch, and then she was the art witch, so they all had different talents. And I did one picture of her later on where she's in a bakery, and then I think I did one with her as well where she's painting a portrait. I didn't even finish this one. This was for a series of Sailor Moon characters, obviously, that I was doing. I was doing all of them. So I have that one that I actually did finish. And then this one, so I didn't get to do Sailor Mars or Sailor Jupiter, which I did not get very much room for Sailor Jupiter in that little corner. but I probably tell who one of my favorites is. So yeah, it still looks pretty decent. The other one, so this was the rest of the Sailor Moon characters. So you've got, I believe, Pluto, and I'm blanking. I know it's Uranus and Neptune. Saturn? Sailor Saturn? Or am I mixing these two up? I should definitely know that. I will probably correct myself somewhere here saying, nope, you're wrong, or yes, you're right. So that's it for those. And those are the other two. So that's probably my most finished sketchbook, is this one. I do have another one over here that I may go through at another part. It's kind of the same type of thing. It's like there's a lot of comic stuff. It's probably even more disjointed. Like you can see there's some comic stuff, but then there's just like some random sketches in this one. So probably not as interesting, and this doesn't span as much time. I think this was only like maybe a couple of years, and whereas this one was like several years, because I was doing mostly digital art, so I didn't really use a sketchbook a whole lot. And even if I wasn't doing digital, I would sometimes just draw on like scraps of paper, so I wasn't good about documenting stuff like that. So hopefully you enjoyed this video of going through it. I'm working my way through this one right now that I bought like a month ago, and I have, let's see, I'm about this far through, so I'll probably be done with this one in maybe a few months. And then when I finish this one, I will also do a sketchbook tour, and I'm sure that one will be way more interesting because I'm actually trying. I'm trying to do it so that it's more enjoyable for others to see, whereas these were just like, I didn't have the intention of anyone seeing them, but I thought it would be interesting for someone who's learning to draw, or you know, worries about perfect art or whatever. So yeah, eventually I'll get to that one. And then I do have another notebook that I did buy, Royal Talons, the one I really wanted to try out the paper in that one. I like that it's not white. I like that it's like an off-white, but that's far in the future at that point. So that's it for today. So if you like the video, please like, subscribe, and let me know which was your favorite piece. And thank you for watching.